The sauna door opened with a soft wooden creak, and a wave of warm steam drifted into the quiet hallway. Emily Carter stepped inside slowly, closing the door behind her as the outside noise faded away. The room was small, built from smooth cedar wood, and the air was thick with heat. A gentle crackling sound came from the heater in the corner as water slowly evaporated from the hot stones. Emily sat on the middle bench and let out a long breath she didn't realize, as she had been holding all day. It had been a difficult week. Work had been stressful, the weather in Seattle had been gray and rainy, and her thoughts kept drifting back to memories she didn't want to revisit. 2 months earlier, her long relationship had ended. At first, she told everyone she was fine, but the quiet moments were the hardest. That was why she had come to the spa that evening. She hoped the calm heat of the sauna might clear her mind. She leaned back slightly, letting the warmth relax her shoulders. Her dark hair was tied loosely behind her neck, and a few strands stuck gently to her forehead because of the steam. For a few peaceful seconds, she closed her eyes and listened to nothing but the soft hum of the heater. Then the door opened again. Emily opened her eyes as a man stepped inside. He paused politely near the entrance, letting the door close behind him before walking toward the opposite bench. He looked around 30 years old, tall with relaxed posture and dark brown hair that was slightly damp. His expression was calm and thoughtful, like someone used to quiet places. He gave Emily a small, respectful nod before sitting across from her. Neither of them spoke. In places like this, silence was normal. The warm air made long conversations feel unnecessary. For a few minutes, they simply sat there, the steam rising slowly around them. Emily wiped a drop of sweat from her temple and exhaled softly. The man glanced toward her with a friendly smile. "Long day?" he asked. His voice was gentle and natural, not intrusive. Emily gave a small, tired laugh. "That obvious." "Only a little," he replied. "People usually come to the sauna after a day that feels too long." Emily smiled faintly. His comment felt strangely comforting. "Something like that," she said. The man leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees. "I come here for the same reason sometimes." "Escape?" Emily asked. "Exactly." They both smiled at that. Emily studied him briefly. There was something calm about him. He didn't seem like the type of person who talked too much or tried too hard to impress anyone. "I'm Emily," she said after a moment. "Daniel," he replied. The introduction was simple, but somehow it made the quiet room feel less lonely. The steam continued to rise, and the heat made time move slower. After a short pause, Daniel asked, "Do you live around here?" "Yeah," Emily answered. "About 10 minutes away. I work downtown. What do you do?" "I'm a marketing coordinator for a tech company," she said. "Lots of meetings. Lots of deadlines." Daniel nodded knowingly. "That explains the long day." Emily laughed softly. "What about you?" "I'm a freelance designer," he said. "Mostly remote work. So my long days are usually spent staring at a laptop." That sounds peaceful. Sounds peaceful, Daniel said with a grin. "Until you realize you've been sitting in the same chair for 10 hours. Emily chuckled. The conversation felt easy. She hadn't expected to talk to anyone tonight, but somehow it felt natural. A few moments passed before Daniel spoke again. "Seattle weather doesn't help either," he said. 3 days of rain can make anyone feel tired." Emily nodded. "I moved here from California a few years ago. I still haven't fully adjusted to the gray skies." Daniel smiled. "Most people never do." Emily leaned back against the wooden wall, letting the warmth relax her muscles. For the first time that day, her mind wasn't racing with worries. After a moment, Daniel said quietly, "Sometimes I think people come to places like this not just for the heat, but for the quiet." Emily looked toward him. "What do you mean?" "Life gets loud," he said. "Phones, traffic, work, expectations, but here, it's just silence." Emily considered his words. He wasn't wrong. "You sound like you've thought about that a lot," she said. Daniel shrugged lightly. "Maybe I have." For a moment they simply listened to the heater crackle again. Then Emily surprised herself by speaking more honestly than she planned. "I think you're right," she said. "I needed quiet tonight." Daniel didn't interrupt. He just listened. Emily hesitated, then added, "I went through a breakup recently." She hadn't meant to say it out loud, but the calm space made honesty easier. Daniel nodded slowly. "That's never easy." "It wasn't sudden," Emily explained. "We were together for 3 years. But near the end, it felt like we were slowly drifting apart." Daniel remained quiet, giving her space to talk. Emily stared at the wooden floor. "We kept trying to fix things, but sometimes trying harder doesn't solve anything." "That's true," Daniel said gently. Emily let out another breath. "So now I'm learning how to start over." Daniel thought about that for a moment before replying. "Starting over can feel scary," he said, "but sometimes it gives you room to discover things you didn't notice before." Emily looked up at him. "Like what?" "Like who you really are when no one else is shaping your decisions." His answer was simple, but it stayed with her. The heat in the sauna continued building, and small beads of sweat rolled down the wooden walls. Emily could feel her muscles relaxing more and more. It felt strange, but in the short time they had been talking, she felt lighter. After another quiet pause, Daniel spoke again. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "people think the hardest part of losing someone is the moment they leave." Emily listened carefully, but sometimes, he continued, "the hardest part is believing that something good might still happen afterward." Emily's chest tightened slightly when she heard that she had been thinking the same thing for weeks, but never said it out loud. "You're surprisingly wise for someone sitting in a sauna," she joked. Daniel laughed. "Maybe the steam unlocks deep thoughts." Their laughter filled the small room for a second before fading into comfortable silence. Then suddenly the door opened. Again, cool air rushed inside as a spa employee stepped into the room. "Sorry to interrupt," she said politely. "Just letting everyone know the spa will be closing in about 15 minutes. Emily nodded. "Thanks." The employee gave a quick smile and left. Closing the door again, Daniel stood up slowly and stretched his shoulders. "Well," he said, "looks like the peaceful moment is ending." Emily stood as well. The heat had made her slightly lightheaded, but she felt relaxed. They walked toward the exit together and stepped into the cooler hallway outside the sauna. The sudden temperature change felt refreshing. Emily grabbed a towel from the rack and wiped her forehead. Daniel waited nearby. "I'm glad we talked," he said casually. Emily smiled. "Me too." They walked down the hallway toward the lobby area. The soft lighting and quiet atmosphere of the spa made everything feel calm and slow. Just before reaching the exit, Daniel paused. "You know," he said, pointing across the street through the glass door, "there's a small cafe right over there." Emily looked outside. A cozy cafe glowed warmly under the streetlights. "I usually go there after the sauna," Daniel continued. "Good coffee. Quiet place." Emily hesitated for a moment before she could answer. Her phone vibrated. Inside her bag, she pulled it out and glanced at the screen. The message was from someone she hadn't heard from in weeks. Her ex. 3 words appeared on the screen. "Can we talk?" Emily's heart dropped instantly. The calm feeling she had built inside the sauna suddenly shifted. Daniel noticed the change in her expression. "Everything okay?" he asked. Emily stared at the message again, unsure how to respond. Then she slowly locked the screen and slipped the phone back into her bag. She looked up at Daniel with a thoughtful but uncertain expression. "My past," she said quietly, "just showed up again." Neither of them knew it yet, but that message was about to change the rest of the night. Emily stood near the glass doors of the spa, the phone still warm in her hand. The message from her ex kept echoing in her mind. "Can we talk?" 3 simple words, yet they carried the weight of 3 long years of memories. For a moment she felt the same heavy feeling that had followed her for weeks. But something was different tonight. Maybe it was the quiet peace she had felt in the sauna. Maybe it was the calm way Daniel had listened without judging. Whatever it was, the message no longer felt as powerful as it once did. Daniel noticed the hesitation in her eyes, but didn't push her to explain. He simply waited with patient silence. Outside the large glass window, the streets of Seattle were wet from light rain. Streetlights reflected softly on the pavement, and cars moved slowly through the quiet evening. Emily slipped her phone back into her bag and took a slow breath. She realized she had two choices. She could let the past pull her back again, or she could step forward into something new. The thought surprised her. 2 hours earlier, she had arrived at the spa feeling tired and emotionally drained. Now she felt like the night still held possibilities. Daniel spoke gently. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to." Emily gave a small smile. "It's my ex." Daniel nodded, understanding immediately. "That explains the look on your face." "He wants to talk," Emily said quietly. "And do you want to?" She thought about it honestly. For weeks, she had imagined hearing from him again. She had prepared long speeches in her mind about what she would say. But standing there now, she realized something strange. The feeling of urgency was gone. "I don't know," she admitted. Daniel leaned casually against the wall near the door. Sometimes when people say they want to talk, they're really just trying to hold on to something that's already over. Emily looked at him, surprised by how accurate the words felt. "That's exactly what it feels like," she said. Outside, the cafe across the street glowed warmly through its windows. People inside sat at small tables talking quietly while holding steaming cups of coffee. The place looked peaceful. Daniel nodded toward it again. "That coffee offer is still open." No pressure. Emily looked at the cafe, then at the quiet street, then back at Daniel. The night felt calm, almost like a pause in time. "Okay," she said finally. "Coffee sounds good." They stepped outside into the cool night air. The rain had slowed to a light mist, and the scent of wet pavement mixed with the smell of fresh coffee drifting from the cafe door. As they crossed the street together, Emily felt a small sense of excitement she hadn't expected. Inside, the cafe was warm and softly lit. Wooden tables lined the walls, and quiet music played in the background. A barista greeted them with a friendly smile. Daniel ordered a black coffee, and Emily chose a vanilla latte. They carried their drinks to a small corner table near the window where they could watch the rainfall outside. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Emily wrapped her hands around the warm cup and looked out at the glowing streetlights. "It's strange," she said after a moment. "What is?" Daniel asked. "I came here tonight just to clear my mind. I didn't expect to meet someone and have a real conversation." Daniel smiled slightly. "Life likes surprises." Emily laughed softly. "That's true." They began talking again, this time more comfortably. Daniel told her about how he moved to Seattle 2 years earlier. He had worked for a large design company in Chicago, but the fast corporate life had left him feeling exhausted. One day he decided to quit and start working for himself. It was risky, but it gave him freedom and time to enjoy life more. Emily listened with interest. "That must have taken courage." "Maybe," Daniel said. "Or maybe I just realized I didn't want to wake up 10 years later wondering why I never tried." Emily nodded slowly. His words reminded her of something she had been feeling but hadn't understood yet. "What about you?" Daniel asked. "What made you move to Seattle?" Emily took a small sip of her latte before answering. "A job opportunity. I thought it would be an adventure. And was it?" At first, she said. Then life got busy. Work, routines, relationships. Daniel smiled knowingly. "Life does that." Emily glanced down at her phone again when it buzzed on the table. Another message from her ex appeared on the screen. She stared at it for a moment. Daniel noticed, but remained silent. After a few seconds, Emily flipped the phone over so the screen faced down. "I'm not ready for that conversation tonight," she said calmly. Daniel raised his coffee cup slightly. "That sounds like a healthy decision." Emily laughed softly, maybe for the first time in weeks. The conversation continued naturally. They talked about favorite places in the city, the best parks for quiet walks, small restaurants hidden in different neighborhoods. The more they talked, the easier it became. At one point, Daniel leaned back in his chair and said, "You know something funny?" "What?" "Most people think meaningful moments happen during big events." Emily tilted her head curiously. "What do you mean?" "Like celebrations, big trips, important meetings," he explained. "But sometimes the moments that change everything happen in simple places." Emily smiled. "Like a sauna." Daniel grinned. "Exactly like a sauna." They both laughed again, and Emily realized how relaxed she felt. The tension she had carried all week was slowly fading. Outside, the rain began falling a little harder, creating small ripples in the puddles along the street. The cafe grew quieter as a few customers left for the night. Emily looked out the window thoughtfully. "You know what's strange?" she said. "What?" "I thought tonight would just be another lonely evening. But it turned into something completely different." Daniel studied her expression. "Different in a good way, I hope." Emily nodded. "Yeah," she said softly. "In a good way." A comfortable silence settled between them again. It wasn't awkward. It felt peaceful. After a moment, Daniel said something unexpected. "Sometimes the end of one chapter is actually the beginning of another." Emily considered that. For weeks, she had been thinking of her breakup as the closing of a door. But tonight made her realize something important. Maybe that door had simply been guiding her somewhere else. Her phone vibrated again on the table. This time, she didn't even look at it. Instead, she gently slid the phone into her bag. Daniel noticed and smiled. Emily lifted her coffee cup slightly. "2 new chapters," she said. Daniel lifted his cup as well. "2 unexpected meetings." They clinked their cups lightly. Outside the cafe window, the city lights reflected across the wet streets of Seattle. Cars moved slowly through the rain, and the night felt calm and endless. Emily felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope she didn't know where the conversation with Daniel might lead. Maybe they would simply become friends who shared coffee after the sauna. Maybe their paths would cross again by chance. But for the first time since her breakup, she wasn't thinking about the past. She was thinking about the present moment. And as the rain continued falling outside, Emily realized something quietly powerful. Sometimes life changes not because of dramatic events or big decisions. Sometimes it changes because 2 strangers sit down for coffee after a quiet conversation in a sauna and discover that the future might still hold beautiful surprises.